Hello, everybody. It's MJ again here from sunny Arizona. It actually is sunny out. I'm doing this video at 4:19 p.m. local time. Uh, we're going to take a break, of course. We already took a break from the Viking Age stuff. And last week, if you remember, we went and talked about the pre-colonial period and some historiography about that and some ways to research for the classroom. Today, of course, we're going to go back to the Viking Age, which is uh, my focus, of course. Sub focuses; those are fine. That was another thing I was trying to get across last week was to make you understand. Have some sub focuses. Perhaps you might run into a bad situation where your dissertation choice isn't going to work. Hopefully that's not the case because that's if you're doing something for your dissertation, it means that's your dream. That's what you uh, maybe worked your whole life for, or at least part of it anyway. But to have some good backup plans and to be interested in plenty of other things, historically speaking, are very important things. I wanted to show you here, of course, my dissertation is on the Viking economies. It's good to have a whiteboard around. This is a small whiteboard. It shows the chapters of a class that I'm designing here at Liberty University on the Viking Age. It goes from the Proto-Vikings to Lindisfarne, the sagas, settlement exploration, the Great Heathen Army, Alfred the Great, pagans and Christianity, and the Battle of Hastings in 1066, which is an important point. Basically a Viking three-way dance. Well, originally a four-way dance, not a three-way dance. Really, it was a series of separate skirmishes and wars. But anyway, this week is ebooks, the use of ebooks for research. And I have three really good ebooks this week. One is, and I use this source to give reason for why the sagas sometimes are looked at as not primary sources. And this is about the Skaldic verse, the poetry that's sometimes in these sagas. So they'll be in a story, and all of a sudden they'll break away and they'll give this flourishing story that you're going, really? That really happened? Well, no, of course it didn't happen. It is based on history, but at a certain point it's leaving history and going to literature. And that's fine, because what you wind up having is a cultural idea of what the Vikings in this case are. And so you have to understand that here's this king that's died. He's died in battle. He died heroically. Viking tradition has him going to Valhalla. And he's going to sit with the rest of the gods. He's going to sit with Odin. He's not really a god, but he is with the gods. He's at the table. And this is going to have to be a flourishing thing because these are their stories. This is their culture. And so you have to understand why the sagas are sometimes looked at with some skepticism. But they really shouldn't be. This is just a piece of literature that is honoring their king who has died valiantly in battle. And but sometimes these stories wind up getting transposed on different kings, so the same story on different kings, and so I can understand where places like the Smithsonian for a long time weren't really considering the sagas to be something of primary source material, and they are. So this source will be very nice. The book is actually called the Poetics of Commemoration, Skaldic Verse and Social Memory, circa 890 to 1070. And it's written by Aaron Michelle Gores. And so it's a great piece for that. And I think you have to understand it in that way. That even though it kind of makes the sagas look a little ridiculous as a primary source document, you have to understand the reason why it was written. The other book is by Jane F. Crenshaw, Viking Identities, Scandinavian Jewelry in England. Jewelry is very important. I've talked about this. Sometimes the precious artifacts at the monasteries would be melted down and made into things like brooches. Viking women loved their brooches. But also English society women, too, what I've found in my research, in past research. And so this is important to show that these monastery relics were used and made not only into coins but also into jewelry, and it would make for it would make for an economic system that develops in the places where the Vikings settled. So that's an important source for that. The one that's really important here, the one that I absolutely love, and especially for the last chapter, Silver, Butter, Cloth, Monetary and Social Economies in the Viking Age by Jane Kershaw and Gareth Williams. Gareth Williams is a wonderful source. He's a prolific writer of Viking books. He's written several books that I really enjoy, and journals as well. And he helps to edit this book. It's by Oxford University Press. But what's really interesting, it kind of gives an idea of to look at this economy, this rating and trading economy, from the perspective of not just coinage, but, and like I said in the last chapter is very important, a butter economy. Well, that sounds ridiculous. Butter? What are they doing? Melting down butter into butter coins and sending them off and paying for things that way? And yes and no. They are doing that. Not literally a butter coin, although that'd be cool to see. But I think archaeologically speaking, I don't think that would be found. That would have degraded long before. But what they would do is think of butter as a monetary unit of measurement of economy. So think of like the gold standard that you see today. And that's what butter was, because butter didn't travel very well. It can travel, a good ways, but it can only travel, locally or even a fairly long way. And then so what would happen is you'd say, deliver a bunch of pounds of butter to this other place, and then they would assign a coinage and it would be settled how much that was worth coinage wise, and then that coinage would travel. So that sounds like a regular economy, but this was something relatively new. Before that, there was it was just assigned to however much a piece of gold or a piece of silver would weigh, and that was what an economy measurement would have been before this. And the Vikings really started something that was fairly unique. So I think it's really important, and really for that last chapter. The whole book details the Viking economy and the raiding and trading economy especially very well, but that last chapter of the butter economy explains it all, and how the raiding and trading economy can diffuse into settlement and exploration. All right, thank you very much.